name is Brooke Bell, and I am the digital operations manager here at Tomwood Lexus. And I have been here at Tomwood Lexus for going on 16 years. And during my career growth during those 16 years, I have encompassed a lot of different positions. I mean, right out of college, I started a sales job working for a copier company. And that really taught me like the foundations of business 101, which I was so appreciative for. This Lexus kind of fell into my lap because my family has always been Lexus customers since the very beginning, and since this store opened its franchise in 1989. And so when I first walked in for service, actually, I was like, gosh, everybody here is so nice and friendly. And so that's when I kind of decided to make a career shift into automotive. And I knew nothing about automotive. So literally have a bachelor's degree in psychology and some business experience under my belt. I just started from the ground. I started part-time here, just answering phones as a receptionist in service, and obviously just grew. And I think I've done almost every position here except for parts. I've not worked in the parts department, but I have a fixed background. I was in service for about 6 to 7 years and then transitioned over to the sales side, and just have learned and evolved as I've grown in my career and over the years, and just embraced this business. It's a very male dominant industry, even to this day. It is, I specifically am so lucky. Our store specifically has about 30% women that work in the store, which is kind of outside the norm, right? Because it's very much a male dominated industry. But what we have found is, well, first of all, my general manager, he has given the opportunity to women. Everybody on our leadership, aside from him, is a woman. Our parts manager is a female, our service manager is a female, and of course I am. And so we always joke, we're like, girls rule. But honestly, it goes to the performance, because if you look at like our Lexus store, specifically in our group, and what's compared to like our central area, in the last year, we grew in sales 31% for new cars. There's something that we're doing, and I'm not saying that it's all women based, but I think this industry is missing out a little bit on having females in their stores, because the majority of our shoppers are women. Having that rapport and being able to work with a woman, I think it's very important to have that presence. And I think that sometimes, there are stereotypes, but at the end of the day, if you're performing and doing everything and getting the things done that need to get done, it shouldn't matter. I think that we're lucky that we have a leader that recognizes that there's a shift happening, and that it's important to have a diverse group. It's definitely a male-dominated industry, but I think it's worth proving that it can be done. Women can work in this business. I'm a mom, I have 2 boys, and, finding that balance is so important, but, it can be done. I have been with this 20 group for NCM for about 7 years. And, during those 7 years, I have learned so much, just about processes, best ideas, new vendor insights is a big one. For example, it probably was one of the first few meetings that I went to, and one of the groups brought in a digital advertising agency to present, and I was so blown away by them. We switched to them individually at my store, and then a few years later, we got our whole group signed up with this agency, and we're still with them to this day. And so that's 14 franchise dealerships encompassing that are with that, and they're been performing well for us as a group. So it's just little things like that. New vendor insights were so progressive, and in this automotive space, you have to be, because it keeps changing and evolving, and you have to pivot with that. And everybody in this group kind of brings that insight, and they want to be progressive. And how do we separate ourselves and make ourselves different than our competitors? And what does that look like? And what are we doing to keep up with the times? And so I think that that's been my biggest takeaway each meeting. I learned something different. You know how 20 groups are. You go to them, and then it's like your brain is spinning for like the week after, trying to figure out, okay, you don't want to change the world, right? But what's a little nugget you can take from it to make a big change? And so that's what I enjoy the most about process improvement. I mean, this group specifically is very heavy in the processes and how they work, and people in the stores, real life, what that looks like, boots on the ground. And also the different vendors and what's working for people and what's not working. And so being able to share and bounce ideas is so valuable. Also with the 20 group, a lot of friendships have been formed too. And that's super important and really special because I've gotten to know these people for, over the last 7 years. We consider ourselves like lifelong friends, really. Definitely say, I would say my mom. I know that a lot of people probably might revert to that, but she is such a strong woman that has taught me to, always be kind, always work hard, and just be the best person that you can be. And I feel like I've carried that with my career, especially as we onboard and bring in new people to our store. That's one of the first things that I look for is, okay, are they a good person? Do they care about others? Because you can't teach that. That's like inside, that's innate. And so having a good culture is so important. And so I would say that she's the rock that taught me all that. I think for those people that are new, kind of contemplating, you got to make the best version of yourself, to be able to grow and learn and advance your career. You kind of have to be willing to take those next steps to get better. And I think with that is growing and learning the business. I have learned so much in the last probably 5 years, being able to read a composite, being able to go to these NCM groups and look at the numbers and figure out, okay, where's our weaknesses? What do we need to do to improve from a process standpoint? And I think, it's what you put into it is what you get out of it.